All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Melanie Sachs. I'm proud to chair the Energy Utilities and Technology Committee. We appreciate you all being here. We will begin our afternoon with introductions. We will start over here with Representative Webb.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Representative Kilton Webb, representing House District 98, which is all of Durham, Allapattleton, and parts of Lisbon, Bowdoin, and Hobson.
Good afternoon. My name is Reagan Paul. I represent House District 37 in Waldo County.
Good afternoon, Matt Harrington. I represent Senate District 33, which is 4 towns in inland York County.
My name is Chris Kessler. I represent part of South Portland and a smidgen of Cape Elizabeth.
Good afternoon, Matthew McIntyre, representative for House District 18, 16 towns over portions of 3 separate counties.
Good afternoon, Jerry Runte. I represent parts of the towns of York and Wells and the town of Augusta.
Thank you. And Lynn, is Senator Lawrence on Zoom if he'd like to introduce himself? Okay, so hopefully he will be. If he's listening, hello. Would also like to, of course, we are joined by our wonderful analyst, Lindsay Laxon, and Lynn McLeod as our clerk. So this afternoon, we have several work sessions in front of us. We will begin with 2041, then go to 2043, and then 2112. We are not taking up LD 1949 today, but we do have a language review from Lindsay Laxon, which is her favorite thing. So we would, that is our afternoon together. So we will begin with opening up LD 2041, the work session on LD 2041. If you will note, the bill analysis has both at the same. So Lindsay will go, has both 2041 and 2043 on one analysis, but we will turn your attention to LD 2041, open the work session and act to eliminate the debt limit of the North J Water District. Go right ahead, Lindsay.
Excellent. Thank you. So LD 2041 eliminates the debt limit on the North J Water District. And this is emergency legislation. Committee had a public hearing on January 20th. Any written testimony is available online. I did combine bill analysis for this bill and 2043 as they are very similar in nature and they both raise the same considerations for the committee. As noted at the public hearing, neither debt limit change was submitted to voters in the respective communities. While there is no legal requirement that a vote be held, the prior practice for referenda on substantive charter changes was based on the idea that local residents should decide if changes are acceptable. And as I pointed out, each time we do one of these, note that personal property of the residents and real estate within the boundaries of a quasi-municipal corporation may be taken to pay any debt due to the body corporate. So this means that essentially it is the property of the individuals within the territory that secures the debt of the district. So there is a direct correlation with the residents in those communities. I also did want to note for you that there are provisions in existing law that allow water districts to increase their debt limits by referendum without seeking legislative approval, and there's a similar statute for sewer districts. I also wanted to note at one of the public hearings, an individual noted that there might be an individual on behalf, I think it was the sewer district, there was the likelihood of doing a referendum vote after the legislature makes a change to the charter. I just wanted to note that if the legislature does increase the debt limit in a district's charter and subsequently the same increase is posed to the voters in the district's territory, the failure to receive voter approval will not undo the changes enacted by the legislature. We have not received any fiscal information yet. And the one question we had was with respect to 2043. So I will stop there and see if anyone has any questions for me.
Thank you. Representative Kessler.
Thank you. So just for clarification, both of these water districts could increase the debt limit if they did it via referendum right now.
But it's a water and a sewer district, but yes, there are provisions in existing law that allow for these entities to increase their limits by referendum.
And if I understood your last point to be if the legislature took this action, then it went to referendum and that referendum failed, that is irrelevant is the word I'm using because we made the change at the legislature.
Correct. The charter itself, so the governing document for the district would have been changed by the legislature. So that subsequent vote, if the people within the district said, no, we don't want this, well, the legislature has already made that change.
Great. At this time, I'm wondering if, committee, you have the email that I forwarded you from Lisa Prosiansky, who's representing, we had Ben Wright here from the district in J during the public hearing. He couldn't be here today. So Lisa Prosiansky, I wonder if she'd like to come up. And I had sent the email to all committee members, but wanted to get it on record around to answer some of the questions. The good representative from Winterport had said, so you're removing the limit, and I understand that there was some comments and discussion. So please introduce yourself and welcome.
Yes, thank you. I am Lisa Prosinsky. I'm an attorney at Bernstein Scher, here representing the North J Water District. Ben Wright, the superintendent who was here and testified last week, couldn't be here today, so apologies for that. We did hear the questions and concerns last week and wanted to provide a little bit more additional information. Ben and I have had a lot of conversation in recent days, and I think wanted to speak to the issue of the limit itself and the idea of public participation. I think it did come up at the hearing. One of you asked him if there was a number at which would allow them to do the work they needed to do without eliminating the debt limit entirely. The number that came out was $15 million, and he did confirm that after going back and doing some more work. On the issue of public participation, it does feel like it's important to add information because I feel like maybe we weren't entirely prepared for that question last week. There is public participation before the debt limit before debt is taken on at the district level, and if there were to be a rate increase, when there is a rate increase. As your analyst said, there's more than one way for a district to go about trying to get its debt limit raised. District chose this after some consultation with bond counsel because of the situation that Ogunquit is in, where they have to come back repeatedly. So they thought, the J Water District, which serves a different portion of J, had its debt limit eliminated in 1969. So the North J Water District said, why don't we just try to do the same thing? We'll be on sort of equal footing. That was their thinking. They have talked about this in open meetings at the trustee level. Their thinking was we will get the limit erased, which they feel differently, but that was their thinking. And then they would go back and run their public process once they know how much they need to borrow. So there will be a public hearing at the point at which they know what they want to borrow. The second opportunity for public input is when they go to the PUC. That will trigger another public hearing. So I think their proposal today is the request to amend the bill to a $15 million debt limit, let them go run their local process, and then sort of have the public participation through public hearing and votes at that level.
Thank you, Ms. Prosinsky. Any questions at this time regarding the additional information? Seeing none, we thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. So committee, I'll bring it back to the committee for discussion or motion. What is the committee's pleasure at this time? Senator Harrington.
I'd like to request a corner caucus but before I say that, I keep coming back to that Vassalboro one last year, and it certainly brings a lot of concerns that, Vassalboro got themselves into a huge financial mess, and not setting a limit certainly does bring a lot of concerns to me. Having like a limitless limit without any voter say. So I would put that out there, but I would like a caucus.
Would you like to make a motion or have the caucus first?
I'd like the caucus first.
Okay, Representative Paul.
Just to clarify where we're at, is that a formal amendment to what we would be voting on at the $15 million limit? Is that what
You
we're,
can certainly make a motion with that as an amendment
Okay.
to it.
then I guess my question is that acceptable to the sponsors? Is that what you want your bill to be?
Representative Lyman,
Yeah.
would you like to come up? We're certainly happy to invite the good representative who's here. Okay.
I guess we'll revisit that. We'll revisit that.
Yes.
Certainly.
Yes. Okay, so just know during caucus, you can certainly caucus with your members as well when we have corner caucus. Any other public discussion? I do want to invite in Senator Lawrence to say hello. I believe he, just so folks know that he is here, I believe. Is that correct, Ms. Lynn? So, hi, Senator Lawrence. Just wanted to make sure people knew you were here as well. Would you like to introduce yourself?
How are you? I am State Senator Mark Lawrence from Southern York County. I represent the towns of South Berwick, Elliott, Kittery, York, and Gunquit, and I apologize. I'm out sick today.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Okay, committee. With that being said, are we ready to corner caucus before any motions? Okay, we will be at ease until we see people back in the room. Okay. Bring us back to our work session on LD 2041. Committee, I look to you for discussion or motion. Senator Harrington.
I would make a motion of to pass as amended, amending it to not exceeding 15 million.
Is there a second? Representative McIntyre, discussion. Lindsay, is that a clear enough motion for you? Okay. Okay.
So this would be not to exceed $15 million. Excellent.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, we will move it to a vote. Thank you.
May we start with Representative Runte?
Yes.
Representative Runte votes yes. Representative McIntyre?
Yes.
Representative McIntyre votes yes. Representative Foster?
Yes.
Representative Foster votes yes. Representative Kessler?
Yes.
Representative Kessler votes yes. Representative Sachs?
Yes.
Representative Sachs votes yes. Senator Lawrence? Right, you're muted, sir. Can you unmute?
Yes. I
Thank
can
you.
unmute and I'm voting yes.
Excellent. Senator Lawrence votes yes. Senator Harrington?
Yes.
Senator Harrington votes yes. Representative Warren?
Yes.
Representative Warren votes yes. Representative Paul?
Yes.
Representative Paul votes yes, and Representative Webb?
Yes.
Representative Webb votes yes. So it's 10 in favor.
Thank you very much, committee, for that, and thanks to the sponsor and your sub. Yes. You do, Senator. I'll remember that. You hear that on mic? Yes. Yes, we got that on mic, Senator, Representative Lyman. Oh, happy birthday, Representative Lyman. All right. There we go. Thank you. Okay, so that closes the LD 2041. We will move straight to LD, opening up the work session for LD 2043, an act to raise the Ogunquit Sewer District debt limit. And for those who just joined us, Lindsay has both bill analyses on the same page. Any additional information you'd like on this particular one, Lindsay?
Just wanted to flag, so this 2043 raises the debt limit for the Ogunquit Sewer District from 12 million to $17 million. And there was a request for information. Representative Webb had asked when the debt limit for the Ogunquit Sewer District was last increased, and that was increased from $7 million to $12 million in 2022.
Thank you, committee. And we do have Alex Buckner in attendance on Zoom, who gave testimony last during the public hearing as the manager of the district. We also have the sponsor, Senator Lawrence. So committee, any questions? We had some similar questions about the public process. And Senator, did you want to speak to that, or Mr. Buckner?
Alex can speak to it, but he's at a conference in Boston. I did text him to ask the questions which Representative Sachs asked me when it was increased in the last time, whether or not there was a public referendum, and there was.
Thank you. Committee, any questions either for Lindsay or for the senator, or discussion that you would like to have, or a motion on LD 2043? Representative Kessler.
And a motion ought to pass.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Representative McIntyre. Any additional discussion on LD 2043? Seeing none, we can move it to a vote.
Thank you. And we'll start at the other end with Representative Webb.
Yes.
Representative Webb votes yes. Representative Paul?
Yes.
Representative Paul votes yes. Representative Warren?
Yes.
Representative Warren votes yes. Senator Harrington?
Yes.
Senator Harrington votes yes. Senator Lawrence?
Yes.
Senator Lawrence votes yes. Representative Sachs?
Yes.
Representative Sachs votes yes. Representative Kessler?
Yes.
Representative Kessler votes yes. Representative Foster?
Yes.
Representative Foster votes yes. Representative McIntyre?
Yes.
Representative McIntyre votes yes, and Representative Runte? Representative Runte votes yes. So 10 in favor? Yeah, so
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Okay, so that will close that work session on 2043. The motion prevails. We will move on next to LD 2112, an act to authorize municipalities to form community choice aggregation programs to procure electricity offered by Representative Rente. The intent here is just to get the bill analysis out here. We just heard the bill on Thursday. And so because a lot of information was asked during it, I do not anticipate there'll be a vote on this today just because there is so much information, but wanted to get the bill analysis out there for folks. This is a complicated bill. So Lindsay, you have it right in front of you. Lindsay, please go ahead.
Okay, so this is LD 2112, an act to authorize municipalities to form community choice aggregation programs to procure electricity. This bill authorizes municipalities and groups of municipalities to establish community choice aggregation programs. Under a community choice aggregation program with a plan approved by the PUC, eligible customers are automatically enrolled in the community choice aggregation program unless they choose to opt out. The bill establishes requirements for customer notifications and protections and directs the commission to adopt rules for community choice aggregation program authorization, standardized opt-out procedures, and consumer safeguards. The bill also requires electric distribution utilities to implement a purchase receivables program, requiring utilities to purchase community choice aggregation program receivables at a discount rate approved by the commission, consolidate billing, assume collection responsibility, and report to the commission annually. The sponsor distributed an amendment on January 14th, 2026. This went to the committee members as well as interested parties. And I'll walk you through the changes the amendment makes to the bill. It adds a section to amend an existing statute regarding the ability of consumers to aggregate electricity purchases to clarify that if a public entity serves as an aggregator, it may only require consumers to purchase generation service from that entity if it is done in accordance with Section 3218, which would be enacted by the bill. Section 1 of the bill proposes to establish Section 3218. There were changes in, I believe, each section here. So we start with the definitions. The amendment deletes the definition of aggregator that is in the bill. Aggregators are defined for the purposes of this chapter in which the law is being placed. And so I've given you the definition below, which is in current law. An aggregator means an entity that gathers individual consumers together for the purposes of purchasing electricity. I also wanted to note, this will come up repeatedly as we go through the amendment. An aggregator is included within the definition of a competitive electricity provider under Section 3201 subsection 5, and I've given you that definition. So when we have provisions that apply elsewhere in statute to a CEP, those are going to apply to an aggregator because they're included within that definition. And then the amendment also makes certain other changes to clarify and simplify some of the definitions. Then we get into subsection 2, which is the CCA program plan. So the amendment changes the bill to prohibit automatic enrollment in CCA of net participants and participants in the successor front of the meter distributed energy resource program that will be created by the Department of Energy Resources. In proposed subsection 3, the amendment clarifies which customers must receive notice of the CCA. In proposed section 3218 subsection 4, this proposed to establish consumer protections. As I mentioned, because aggregators are within the definition of competitive electricity providers, provisions that apply to CEPs will apply to aggregators if you keep that definition. So we struck subsection 4 there because those things will already apply. And looking down to subsection 5, the protections for low income and electric assistance program customers. This amendment clarifies certain elements within these subsections, and those are highlighted for you. 3218 subsection 9 on the next page. This relates to transparency. The amendment included a date by which the annual report regarding receivables purchased must be submitted to the PUC. And then lastly, subsection 10 regarding regulation of aggregators. It strikes the paragraph requiring an aggregator to be treated as a CEP for certain purposes. This is because, again, aggregators are included within the definitions of CEPs, so those will already apply. The committee had a public hearing on January 22nd and received testimony. There are a few technical considerations I wanted to flag for you. So if we start out, so with existing statute, Section 3203 4A, paragraph A establishes general consumer protections, provides that as a conditioning of licensing, a CEP must obtain a consumer's authorization before serving the customer. To maintain the opt-out structure of this program, the committee may wish to address that conflict. So basically, an existing provision in law applicable to CEPs may cause an issue with the opt-out format of the CCA. So if the committee moves forward, that would be a correction that we would figure out a way to accept it from that requirement. The sponsor noted in testimony that current CEP customers cannot be automatically enrolled in a community choice aggregation program. That is in the bill. I do think that could be a little more explicit, along where we say that NEB customers can't be automatically enrolled, maybe highlighting that so it's very clear for entities acting as aggregators and for municipalities. The customer protections that are established in 3203 that apply to CEPs will apply to aggregators, as I've mentioned, under a CCA. The committee may wish to consider if all of the protections are consistent with the CCA structure, for example, the limitations upon renewals. So that may be something to look at just to make sure that every single one of those applies appropriately. Proposed section 3218(5)(c). So this is in the sponsor's amendment relating to protections for low income and electric assistance program customers. It provides that low income customers may not be subject to any additional fees, charges, or penalties as a result of participation in a CCA. This language is very broad. It isn't clear who would be charging those fees. If the intent is to prohibit a transmission and distribution utility, a CEP, or a municipality from charging fees, we would probably want to specify that in the language. Proposed section 3218 subsection 10. This governs confidentiality now. This is on page 3 of the sponsor's amendment. Makes individual customer data confidential. This subsection may not be necessary, as existing law related to competitive electricity providers provides that CEPs, quote, may not release to any other entity other than for purposes of debt collection or credit reporting pursuant to state or federal law, or to law enforcement agencies pursuant to lawful process, any personal information regarding a customer, including name, address, telephone number, usage, and historical payment information without the consent of the customer. So that may be sufficient to provide protection there. I did want to note, if the committee were to establish a new public records exception, that would need to be reviewed by the Judiciary Committee. If what's in current law is sufficient, we don't need to do the judiciary process, but if we create a new one, we would. But I did want to flag for you, that applies to data held by the CEPs, which would include aggregators. If in this model, municipalities are receiving customer information, they will be subject to FOA. So if in this model, the municipality is going to have individual customer information that you would want to keep confidential, then the committee may wish to establish a new confidentiality provision. But I don't know in this model if the municipalities would have that or if that would just remain with the aggregator. Moving on to additional considerations raised in.
Lindsay, can we just pause
Sure.
there? Because there's a lot of the additional and there was a lot that we just unpacked there. Can I just pause and make sure, see if anybody has any questions? You answered mine. I had one, but you answered it. Any questions at the moment for Lindsay of any of the material that she's touched on so far before we go on to additional considerations? Okay, just wanted to pause. Thank you.
Nope, that's great. So we're moving on to additional considerations. These are raised in testimony. The department noted that the bill is not clear as to whether municipalities served by consumer-owned utilities may elect to participate. The committee may wish to clarify this, as many of the requirements in the bill are specific to investor-owned T&Ds. The bill requires standard offer customers to be automatically enrolled. Versant Power questioned in testimony how data sharing with CCAs and enrollment changes would be handled under this program. The bill as amended requires municipalities with low income and vulnerable populations enrolled in one of these programs to conduct targeted outreach. Versant Power noted in testimony that it isn't clear how these individuals would be identified, And if the T&Ds would be required to share this information, it raises customer privacy concerns. And again, noting that if it's shared with the municipality, some individual customer information that would be subject to FOA unless another public records exception applies. Section 3218 subsection 9 requires an annual report from the transmission and distribution utilities. Versant Power noted in testimony that January 1st deadline is not workable for full calendar year's data and requested a later reporting date. 3218 subsection 11 requires the PUC to adopt rules to implement the section no later than January 1st, 2027. The PUC noted this would be a significant undertaking and requested that rulemaking be required to be initiated by that January 1st date, as opposed to have the rules fully adopted. Department and the utility and the investor-owned transmission and distribution utilities noted questions about the mechanics of enrollment and unenrollment, and the utilities expressed concern about associated costs and system impacts. I want to give you for additional information, there is a related program available for county commissioners. This is entitled 30A, Section 903A. You'll notice it pulls in some of the existing definitions in 35A. And so it allows the county commissioners to establish a county electricity agency to serve as a public aggregator for electricity consumers. Thought you might just want to see that for your reference. At this point, we have not received any fiscal information, and there were 2 information requests from the committee, but both of those were answered for the work session. And so I've included the text from those emails in the body of the analysis.
Thank you, Lindsay. This is remarkable. I will just note, we have a remarkable analyst, and turning this around in such a short time in such detail is quite appreciated. I would just ask if for one question I had is, do you know of any counties that have done this, have availed themselves of this particular statute?
I have no idea.
Okay. Questions? Representative Foster first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just as a follow-up, do you know when that went into statute? How long that's been there?
Looks like 1999 for the statute that she gave us. Is that correct?
I'd have to double check. This could have been results. Sometimes we have recodifications and other more sort of administrative changes. So the statute could be older than that, but I can look
Sure.
into it and bring that back for you.
Okay. Representative Warren, and then we'll turn it over to the sponsor.
Thank you so much for this. I was curious, I had in my own notes for some reason about whether this language was, forgive my ignorance, is it inclusive of our tribes here in the state? Would you know if we're saying municipality, does that have any way that it implicates XYZ dynamics, or maybe not?
I don't know for sure, but my guess would be no, that when we say municipality, that's not going to include the tribes.
Thank you. I wanted to turn it over to the sponsor who wasn't able to be with us in person when the bill was presented, just to see if you had any additional questions, thoughts, comments. Representative Rente.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. In addition to a lot of this really important level of detail that Lindsay has dug through here, I think there's really 3 salient elements to this that need to be worked out. The main objective here is that when all the dust settles, everyone is held harmless in terms of shifting costs of billing, risk of taking on debt. And so the idea is that over the next several days, we'll be getting together with key stakeholders to the utilities, the OPA, to sort out proper language that clarifies what the purchase of receivables really constitutes, how utilities could be made whole in terms of incremental expenses to billing software programs. And then there's a lot of conjecture around this other issue of what's the impact on those who remain in the standard offer if a whole collection of towns opt to go into the community choice aggregation, how does that impact what their standard offer looks like? Frankly, the best guess is, look, at the moment is it has almost no material effect. And there's some arguments that say it actually improves things, but it's important, I think, that we get before us people who are really close to this issue and are reasonable subject matter experts to be able to offer an opinion on that. So to allow sufficient time to get a new amendment on this that incorporates both what we've heard today and some of these other issues, I'd like to move to table the bill.
Okay, it's not debatable. Do I have a second on tabling? Representative Webb, that is not debatable. All of those in favor of tabling the bill?
Sorry.
Any opposed? One? Okay, the bill is tabled. Okay. So we will take that up at a later date. We just have one language review for LD 1964 committee, and then please let me know if there's anything else.
Excellent. So Lynn is going to hand out the language review. This is for LD 1964. Oh, an act to require the development of standard written disclosures for sellers and installers of distributed generation resources to make changes to other standard disclosures and make misrepresentation in the sale of electricity products an unfair trade practice. So this was a unanimous committee report voted on January 6th. And so I wanted to bring this back as in putting together the language and talking to the utilities and the public advocate and the department, a timing issue came up. So that's primarily what I want to flag for you. But number one, there's a revised title. So an act to establish additional requirements related to the sale or lease of net energy billing interests and solar energy equipment. And then if we turn the page, this is what I wanted to run by the committee to make sure this is consistent with your intent. We get to section 5 governing the disclosure form. And the question I wanted to put to you is beginning June 1st, 2026. So this is emergency legislation. This would go into effect upon signature. However, if you turn the page to page 3, paragraph E, one of the elements in the disclosure form is information relating to, relating to the interconnection. Nope, hang on. Oh, that's not right. There we go. Sorry, paragraph C on page 2. I'm like, that didn't read right at all. Including average cost of system interconnection by project size based on the previous calendar year's range of interconnection costs published annually by the Interconnection Ombudsman. So this was language that came in toward the end, and this requires the utilities to report to the PUC these interconnection costs, the PUC to publish, or excuse me, the Ombudsman to publish them. That's addressed in section 6 on page 3 of the bill in unallocated language. So the challenge, though, is if the utilities have to report by March 1st, 2026 to the PUC has to post by May 1st, 2026, the information that would be used in the disclosure form. If we have the disclosure form becoming required prior to this information being available, it's unclear how that element would work. If you have to give average costs, but no one has published them for you to include on the form, that's going to create some confusion. And this, because this is a violation of this section, is a violation of the Unfair Trade Practices Act. This isn't a PUC enforcement situation. This would be the Attorney General's office. So in talking to the utilities and the departments, the utilities said they could provide, and they can wave their hands about if I'm misspeaking, but I don't. I've talked to both CMP and Versant. They can do the by March 1st, 2026 reporting date. If they meet that date, the PUC can get the information published by May 1st, 2026. The original language in the bill required the Department of Energy Resources within 90 days of the effective date to develop model disclosure forms. They want to see that information and what it looks like before they develop the model forms. So we ended up with a timing issue. So to remedy this, and everybody seemed to be okay with this, we can make the disclosure form requirement go into effect June 1st. We keep the reporting dates, and then for the Department of Energy Resources, direct them by June 1st, 2026 to have developed these standard forms. And then starting June 1st, 2026, the forms begin to be used. So for that one element, we do have a delay until June 1st, but then the information that populates the disclosure form will be available. However, if this is not the committee's intent, please let me know.
So questions on the tweak replacing within 90 days of effective date with an actual date of June 1st. Any questions,
No.
Representative Rente?
No.
Your microphone's on.
Sorry.
Any other questions or concerns? Head nods to Lindsay. This looks good. You'll see this on final review as well. This was the interim. It's yellow. We're waiting for the pink. All right.
Excellent. You know how I love a language review. Thank you
I
so much.
do. We like to go out with a bang. Any other questions or announcements? Any other business that needs to come before the committee today, Lindsay? Committee members? Seeing none, we are adjourned.